I was not prepared for the end of episode 16, the shocking reveal of episode 16. Oh my gosh. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another review on the Review Garden. So, pretty much episode 16 starts where, 15 ends. He wanted to take her on a trip to see the trains. And, he previously talked, Dohon previously talked to her brother and was like, because her brother was the one who was forcing him to be like, oh, you can't go near her. Like, stop, you know, stop bringing her more into your world because he doesn't want the people to come after her. Well, so they went on their trip, they had a good time, and then he quote broke up with her, right? Because he was like, his mom and his grandma know about his problem, so there's really no need to keep having um a secret position. So they pretty much went their own way, and the brother was there to come and pick her up, which she was asking the brother, like, did you guys plan this? What, um like, how did you know where I was, and so on. So pretty much, they're both kind of like heartbroken. She's acting like nothing's wrong. um and as she went back home, her family found out that she was quote fired because her suitcases came back to the house. So they kind of understood why she was acting the way she was acting. And on Dohan's side, he was he was pretty much sad. His body, he got drunk, but he didn't get drunk enough. He was like, he told his secretary, like, I want to get really drunk so that the other personalities come and take over. And they were like, and he was like, where are they when I need them, right? So fast forward, um the business is not doing very well, and the chairwoman's assistant was like, um you shouldn't have let go of Dohan so early, because the fact that she did, the other people the other people were like, now they're coming, right? The president and his dad, so Dohun's cousin and his dad, are like coming now. And some of the shareholders who were on her side are now going to their side, so there's trouble. So what she does is, the chairwoman um calls Rijin to the mansion, and she's asking her about his condition and so on. And that's when she was like, oh, he fired her. And the grandma's like, oh, well, then there's no reason for me to keep talking to you. But when the grandma when what's his name, Dohun, heard that the grandma called her over there, he ran over there as well. So as she's in the house, there's certain things that are happening that she's starting to remember. So the chairwoman said something which like triggered her to remember. Then the picture frames that Segi broke last time he was in the chairwoman's house, they the the maid brought it back while she was in the room, and she saw the picture of the chairwoman's son, and that triggered something as well. So the maid was like, "Are you okay?" So they were like trying to walk her out of the room, and then that's when she started like, remembering a lot of stuff that happened. And Dohun was outside as she was walking out, and like she just started, freaking out. But she didn't want to take Dohun's hand. It was until the maid came and put her into one of the cars and had the driver drive her home. So then when she gets home, as she's remembering, I think it was maybe it was before, but at some point she asked her mom to tell her about her parents because, she's starting to remember a lot. So her mom gives her like this envelope that she's been carrying, that she's been holding, since 21 years ago. So as she's like um opening everything, going through the photos, she starts to remember more. And in the same time frame, they're showing you Dohun is starting to remember a lot more too. And he, what happened was he had a headache, and then he went to sleep. But then when he woke up, the teddy bear was on the bed. So I'm guessing that maybe Segi came out. I'm not sure because Segi was the one who liked the teddy bear, or who gave Rijin the teddy bear, right? Or the other person who does like the teddy bear as well is Nana, right? Because that how one time that Nana came out, um, she went to go play with the teddy bear, which Nana, you never like had you never saw her really. So I'm like, is it really a personality, or is it a baby? Maybe because Nana is the name of the teddy bear that she had, right? That Rijin had when she was young. Because when he was like earlier on, when he asked for her name, and he was like Nana, and he's like, no, that's the bear's name. So that's why I'm like, maybe Nana's not really a personality, or Nana is probably the personality's a baby or a young child. Um, because he seems to be taking personalities of things that the name of his personalities seem to be, you know, things that he he's familiar with. So back to what I was saying. So now, um, so he wakes up, he finds the teddy bear on his bed. Then he looks up and he sees the little child, right? And she goes, "Oh, I didn't tell you my name." And he's like, "Yeah, well, I know your name. Your name is Rijin." And I'm like, I, no, that's not her name, because you're talking to the version of her that was in the basement. She got the Rijin name after she got out of the basement. So therefore, that's not going to be her name. The name she's talking about is the name she had before her mom, took her, rescued. The better term is before her mom rescued her from the fire, right? So then as she's saying, my name is Cha Do Hoon, and Rijin is remembering that her mom used to call her Dohun. And I was like, what? what? That was like the biggest shocker of this whole series, because I'm like, wait, so his name is Dohun, but that's not really his name. That's not the name he was born with. Um, and her name was Cha Do-hoon when she came into the house, right? So that was the end of episode 16. So 17 starts, she's remembering this. Then she starts freaking out. Like, she freaks out so much that she passed out. So the doctor had to come with the IV to give to her. And you have, Dohun over on his side that is like crying and yelling, right? And then so they kind of, in episode 17 in the beginning, they showed you pretty much what happened. So like they said, um the so the so there's the chairman, there's the chairwoman. They have a son. The son is forced to marry um a woman, but the woman had somebody before she was forced into this marriage. She had somebody that she loved, but the grandpa had a liking to the son's wife. The father didn't really care much about the son, right? Okay. So the son decides that he's going to go away. I think he went to the US. I'm not sure. Um he decides he's going to go away. He files for a divorce. He signed the paperwork and all that. She was happy because she was the one who was begging him to give her a divorce, right? So they gave the paperwork. It was supposed to be submitted, right? So she goes about her life. She goes back to the man that she loved, and she but he didn't have much time to live. Maybe he was sick or something. But anyway, they were in love. She got a child out of it, right? When he goes to the US, he finds this other woman, that he falls in love with, and they have a child. Now, the grandpa, 6 years later, you know, the grandpa needs someone to take over the business. The business is going down. For whatever reason, certain things happened. So now he comes to find her to come back to the business. She's like, I can't come back. I'm not gonna come back. I divorced your son. That was the end of that, right? He's like, no, I never filed the paperwork. So technically, you're still my daughter-in-law. I'm like, what the hell? So she's like, oh my gosh. So he's like, come back, have your child be on your husband's registry, on his family registry, and pretty much she is going to inherit the group. If anything were to happen to everyone, right? She would inherit everything. So now, during that same time frame, the 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 son, which, by the way, I have to say that he was a nice guy. He was good to his son, right? He was walking out, shopping with his son, enjoying their time, right? And then he goes back home. The woman, she's so unbearable. She's the one who made him go back home. She's like, oh, you need to put him on your registry. And he's like, why can't you put him on your registry and enroll him in school? She's like, no, we can't keep living like this. Go back home and beg, right? So now he's forced to go back home. When he goes back home, that's when he runs. He sees that his ex-wife is in the house living with a child, right? The way that he brought the grandpa, the chairman brought the woman back, he told the chairwoman that that the little girl was her grandchild. So it was her son's child, right? So when he comes back and he sees the two of them, he's like, why is she here? And who's this child? So he's like, his mom was like, of course, it's your kid. He's like, my kid? It can't be my kid. Right? So he goes to talk to the father, and the father pretty much tells him, get the hell out of here. I don't want you here. Like, go back to the US where you came from and take your child with you, right? And he was asking the father to like get rid of the woman's child. The father's like, no. So I'm guessing from that point on to later, something happened to the father. The father passed away, and the girl's mom passed away, which now she's left with being under the care of, the chairwoman, the father, and the the stepmom. So what ended up happening is they needed to, it's like they wanted to erase one child, and they wanted to put another child on the registry. So what they did was, since she since the chairman already added the girl on the registry, the chairwoman, when all this was done, she went and changed the sex of the child from female to male. So now she never existed, and his new name is Chadohun, which was her name. So I'm guessing since he didn't remember anything, it was okay for him to take over the name Chadohun. But my thing is, he didn't remember, but Segi knew, right? Segi knew this whole time that his name wasn't really Chadohun, right? But like, he didn't tell him anything. So it's like, okay, well, why didn't you tell him anything? Is it because you wanted us to be surprised by all the way by episode 17? Right? Because Segi is the only one who has the memory of everything that went on. So he had to have known his name. And then, the name Perry Park, when him and his dad were out shopping, he told his dad he was going to buy him a boat, and the name of the boat would be Perry Park. So we got one name. Perry Park is the boat that, you know, he was going to buy his dad. Then we have Nana, which is the name of the teddy bear. And then Segi's last name is his mom's last name. So we kind of see like where the personalities, came up with their names, or even why he had to split into so many different personalities, right? Because when he was realizing um his name, his actual name, um the very first part when she was like, what's your name, came into his head. So it's almost like, well, what I'm asking myself is like, how come none of the personalities took his real name? Like his real name, the one that his mom gave him when when he was young. How come none of the personalities took that name? Or at least parts of it? That would have been really interesting. Like a breakthrough kind of. So Cha Do Young was like, because the business is going down, he was like, he's not going to go to his grandma. He's going to let his grandma come beg for him to come back, right? And she came to his house and was like, get in, I need to talk to you. So she brought him to the father, to where the father is, and she's like, I'm going to tell you, well, before he even got in the car, she was like, she was going to tell him exactly what happened that day 21 years ago. And, you know, when she brought him to where the father is, she's like, oh, you need to promise me that, after I tell you what I'm about to tell you, that you come back to the company. And he's like, oh, how about you tell me first, and then I'll let you know, right? So she starts telling him like the day of the party, Ridgen's mom was there, and pretty much the party was to let everyone know that he is the new chairman, and you know that he's going to introduce his successor later on. Now, this is after the his father and his quote ex-wife passed away. And apparently they both died on the same day. So probably a car accident. And then at the because that's how you learned about it. The people were gossiping in the thing because they didn't know he had a son. So they're like, oh, it can't be her kid, you know, because he was gone for all that time. So obviously the people started gossiping about that. So anyway, Chad, well, his real name back then was Jun Young. He went to he went to the kitchen to get food for for Regin, in the basement. And first I want to say like his mom went to him and was like, "Oh, you have to do your best. Your father's going to introduce you, and you're pretty much going to take over the whole company." Like, this is what gets me. Like, she cared more about money than she cared about having a loving family. She was okay with being on the sidelines instead of actually being together with her family, right? Because they would have been fine. They would have been fine, back where they were. And the father would have still been a loving father. The boy would have been happy. He wouldn't have to make up his personalities, right? So so Dohan goes and gets her food in the kitchen, and Ridgen's mom saw him heading towards the a door and was like asking him, well, where's the basement? Because she wanted to go see if the girl was there. Well, while he was um with her, the his father was looking for him to go introduce him to everyone. So his father noticed that he was missing and went down to the basement, saw the two of them together about to come out because they were about to run away. And then the father closed the door and closed him on the outside and started beating the girl up. So, and like he was like going to the extreme. He was like breaking stuff on her and like doing all bunch of stuff. So that's when, Chado Dohan was outside the door crying, and then that's when he heard something. He started getting headaches, and then he heard something, and it was Segi who well, he heard a voice that was like, do you want me to take over everything, right? Appa- like, it seems like you can't take care of this yourself, so do you want me to take over and take care of it for you? So he saw matches. The name on the match was New Century, which in Korean, well, based on the subtitles, they said it means Segi. So again, he took his mom's last name, and he put, he took the matches and then called himself Shin Segi, right? So that's when he turned. That's when he created the personality Segi, and then Segi was the one who started the fire, and and everything happened. So now the grandma, you know, was doing all that, and she was like, "Oh yeah, you were the one who started the fire. You're the one who put my son in this position. I covered everything up to protect the position, to protect my son, to protect you." I'm like, "Girl, shut up." And like, it's her actual grandson, right? Like, at first I thought she was doing that because maybe he wasn't um Dohun, maybe he wasn't his father, but he is. I think it's the fact that she saw him with the gasoline. That's why she hates him, because he started the fire, and her son has been in a coma for 21 years. So that's why she hates his guts. So anyway, that day Segi was created, and he's like, he's the one who saved the child. But my thing is, if Segi was created the day of the fire, that means that the torture was over, right? Because after the fire happened, the father went in a coma, and then the Ridgen's mom came and took her from the basement, and then Ridgen went to go live with them, and everybody lost their memory, obviously, and um except for Segi. But the person who actually endured everything was Dohon. It wasn't Segi. Segi was created because of everything he went through, and because he couldn't um you know muster the courage to do anything about it. But if you look at the timeline of when Segi came out, the person who endured it was Dohun. So I don't know. It's Segi's like, he's the one who endured everything, but he wasn't. So now Segi is out, and you know, as he was remembering all of this, he started having a headache in the hospital, and then he turned into Segi, and that was the end of episode 17. Um, so in the start of 18, we started 3 minutes in, Segi went to go find Rijin, and he wants to go anywhere with her. And I do like it that, Dohun respects um all the other personalities stuff. Like, you don't see Dohun driving Segi's car. Like, he knows that the red car is Segi's car. Like he never drives it. Only Segi drives that car. So I find it nice that he respects the other personalities' belongings. So when Segi came to see um Rijin, he opened up a little bit about how Dohan be got the name, like how he became Chadohan, right? So when the fire happened, the he actually set the fire right next to the door of where the father was. And the father came out and saw the fire and pretty much took him. But what got me is how fast um the firefighters got there. There was one firefighter who came in, and Dohon's father, handed him to the firefighter. But I'm like, how does that make sense? If anything, the firefighter is the one that's supposed to keep going, right? Not hand the kid to the firefighter and then you go back in through the fire. Like, that didn't make sense to me, right? Like, you would be like, you're carrying the child and you're like, hold on, there's another child, back there. The firefighter with his uniform, with his mask on, is the one that's supposed to go through the fire and get the child. So he hands Dohan to the firefighter, and um he goes back to the room because Dohan kept telling him, like, don't leave her behind. You have to save her, right? So he goes back to save her. But when he gets there, he saw that the window was open and there was a rope, so she was not there, right? But then that's when he like fell and went into his coma. But when Dohon gets to the car, he's like, to the ambulance, the lady's like, hey kid, come to your senses, come to your senses. And I'm like, shouldn't you be giving him something, like, I don't know, air? So um so she's like, what's your name, what's your name? And then that's when he said, my name is Chadohon, right? So ever since then, that part, he was traumatized. So Segi came out, then he says Chadohon. So that means, wouldn't it mean that Chadohon is also a personality? Because, you know, when afterwards they showed you his mom calling him by his real name, and he never responded. And it was when she called him Dohun that he like turned back around and looked at her. So that means that that's another personality. His real personality then, is locked somewhere. So Nana, Segi was like, is the 7-year-old version of um Rijin, right? But it's been asleep for so long. So when Nana comes out, he doesn't know, right? Because he's normally, if she's asleep, um, you know. So when he met her again, that's when Nana starts waking up. So that's why he's like, he thought it was a new identity, new personality, but in reality, it wasn't. He had already created that personality back then when the event happened. So that is a lot to take in. So I wonder where Yona comes from. Yona and her twin brother. Like, where did those come in from? Like, those 17-year-old twins. So so like, did something happen to him when he was 17 that he created those two personalities? Because you got, which are totally different from each other, right? You have one of them that's suicidal, and then you have Nana, who's like boy crazy. So I'm like, I hope they touch on where those personalities came into play. So Segi got a phone call from this guy Alex, who used to be, I guess he used to go to high school with. Um, so he calls saying that, oh, some people have been calling me asking me, for information or to meet up, and they're offering me $500,000, um you know to speak to me, and I just want to see how much you're gonna offer me. So Segi's already like pissed off. He doesn't want to talk to this guy. um he was like, I thought you were dead. Like, why are you calling me? Right? So he's like, okay, give me a time and place to meet you. So he was with Ridgen, so they both went to go meet him. So Ridgen is like, stay in the car, I'm gonna go talk to him. And he's like, no, I'm gonna go in. And she's like, I thought you said my word was law. So he was like, ugh, fine. But if any sign of trouble, if he does anything, I'm going to kill him. And she's like, fine, deal. So she goes inside, and this idiot goes and he's like, oh, you look so good. Like, how about if you, no, he said, if you're good, then he doesn't have to worry about paying me anything. And I'm like, you are so disgusting. So then Segi hears her screaming inside. So to, Segi goes inside and starts punching this man, like, and then he start like strangling him. So but she didn't want him to kill him, right? So she calls out Dohun's name, and then Dohun came out. And while they were in the car, and before that, the secretary comes in, and because she texted him in the car saying that Segi was going to meet this guy Alex, and to come to the location. So anyway, they're in the car, and she starts talking to Dohun, and she's like, because he really tried so hard to protect that name, and the memory of that name, fighting all the other personalities to come out and pretty much keep the name alive. She was like, oh, I'm gonna gift you something, and I'll gift you the name, and you can keep going around calling yourself Chadohon from now on. And then you know she so he switched into Dohun. So first it was Segi, then it's Dohun, and then he went to go drop her off at home. But as she went inside, he got another headache, and then because I guess it was so emotional for him, Perry Park came out, and Perry just want to party, you know. So Perry, as he turned into Perry Park, the father came, and the father likes Perry Park, so they went inside to get a drink, and the father wanted to like drink his most expensive, bottle. So as he's about to drink, he goes into another, like he gets another headache. So, but he like faints. So they go bring him to the brother's room, and they put him on the bed. And then he switched again. When the brother came to his room, he couldn't find him. So he went when she went into her room, she saw that he was sitting down on the chair, and he was wearing the glasses. So I'm like, oh, it's Yosef. So Yosef comes out, and Yosef's like trying to tell her that, because he doesn't feel like he has much time left. Dohun doesn't really have any suicidal thoughts anymore. So he might be gone, for good, if, at any time. So he wanted to write a poem before he left, and he wanted to say thank you to Ridgeon, right? So he's going to kiss her on the cheek. But first, he also told her how they got their name, because, when Dohun was in high school, he tried to commit suicide, um, which I'm pretty sure that had something to do with that Alex dude. You know, and because on one hand he wanted to, you know, commit suicide, but on another hand he also had a will to live, and that's why both of the twins were created. So as he's going to kiss her on the cheek, the brother comes in and he's like, "What are you doing?" So like he throws him on the floor, and he like hit his head, and when he comes back up, he's no longer Yosef. She was like, "Wait, what are you doing? It's not Perry Park." Because I'm guessing Perry Park is an old man. So he's like, he's not Perry Park. So when the body gets back up, it's Yona. And then she goes, "Opa." And he's like, "Opa." So like he's like scared, right? Because Yona is like in love with him. So like they do rock paper scissors to see who is going to take Yona in their bedroom, right? But she lost, so Yona had to go, um you know sleep on the floor in her bedroom, because they, they were both arguing. She's like, "Well, he's a man. I can't sleep with a man. Like, can't sleep with a man in my room." And she's like, he's like, no, he's a girl. I can't sleep with her in my room." Um, so anyway, Yona went with her in her room. So she had to like tie Yona's hand, because at any point she would be like, "Oh, I'm thirsty. I'm gonna go get something to drink." And she's like, "No, you're not. You're just gonna go into my brother's room." But like I think halfway through the night, he came back. Dohun came back. So they woke up and they started talking, and he's like, "Oh, I thought you would be better far away, but you know I would prefer it if you stayed closer to me." So then the brother comes in the room and he's like, "I thought about it. I would prefer if he if she slept in the room." So then he had already come back. So he's pretend it was so funny when he was trying to pretend to be Yona, because like the brother found them very close to each other. So he was pretending to be Yona, and after he left, he was like, "That wasn't Yona." And she's like, "How did you know?" She's like, "Because Yona, um, you know, always gives me eye contact." So that was funny. Like when he went through all of the different personalities in one night, which happened before. And that was the time when Segi was the only one who didn't come out. And even Nana came out. So this time Nana didn't come out. So I guess Nana's back to being asleep, or Nana is no longer needed, so Nana is gone now. Um, and then she pretty much is trying to come back to work now. So the end of episode 18 was just the cousin and his father pretty much figuring out the identity of Rijin, and that, Dohun, Cha Dohun is not really Cha Dohun's name, blah, blah, blah. They finally caught up with everybody else. And, you know, he, they also saw, they did a shareholders meeting, and he kept his promise to his grandma, so now he's taking a position in the company. And the uncle and the cousin were not too happy about it. So now we're going to see how what happens in episode 19. I personally think that the best couple in this whole series is Yona and Rion, right? Rijin's brother. They are hilarious. And it's mostly because, she wants him and he's just like, get away from me, type of thing. So, she came out, and because there's this new personality now, that they just saw, X, and Yona was like, she knew who it was, and the only way she would give Rijin more information is by saying, is by going to see Rion. And it was funny because she was like kissing up on him, and she was taking pictures, and he was just like, my life is ruined. It's so funny. But throughout episode 19 and episode 20, the beginning of episode 20, I should say, so Perry Park decided that he was going to leave. And because he's the oldest out of the four of them, I mean, not out of the four, he's the oldest out of all the personalities, so it was best that he left first so that the young ones could follow suit. But my thing is, why do they really have to leave? I feel like if they all learn how to play along, there was really no reason for them to leave. I feel like, she would have enjoyed being next to all of them, right? Because she cried when Perry Park left, and she cried when Yona left. Granted, Yona wrote something on her forehead, but she cried nonetheless that Yona left. So first it was Perry Park. Then when Yona came out, when it was almost time for her to come out, Yosub showed up and was like, "We have to leave in order for them to be happy and in order for them to be comfortable with each other." And Yosub didn't get to come out and say his poem, but he said it, um, in that alternate world. So Perry Park, Yona, and Yosub are both, all three of them are gone now. So now I feel like Nana doesn't count. Nana probably left already, right? Um, and then the only one we have left is Segi. Yeah, Segi and now Mr. X. So we're gonna see how they're gonna have Segi say goodbye, because he's the only one who was like, he wants to take over. But I feel like, again, they all could have been um living perfectly, because now everybody knows his secret. The grandma knows his secret, the mom knows his secret, even the cousin now knows his secret, and even Cheyun knows his secret. So there's really, no reason um to, not to separate, really, or for them to be gone. As long as everybody behaves, then everybody could have been, happy together. But I do find it interesting that they show you when each personality came in. So Perry Park and Segi were both here when his so Perry Park, Nana, Segi were here when he was young, because they're the ones who experience the um all the hurt that was happening. And Perry Park was formed um because he remembered the relationship with his father when his father was nice. So when his father was, talking to him about the boat and was happy. So Perry Park was a representation of that time. Nana was, his memory of the girl. And Segi was pretty much when, because he couldn't handle everything and he couldn't do anything about it, Segi was born. And then the twins were born when he was in high school, because he just couldn't handle everything. So Yosub was born. And then because he still had a yearning to live, his twin sister was born. So I think it's really interesting. It's a really interesting take on a K drama series. So I spoke too soon. Nana didn't leave yet. Up to the part that I got. So it was right before, the father woke up after 21 years of being in a coma. He woke up, he opened his eyes, and, the secretary was like, called Doyun and was like, oh, your father's awake and he wants to see you and Rijin, to make amends for the past. And that's when he was thinking about, you know because they've been investigating who caused the crash that killed, his grandpa and Rijin's mom. And they're like, who stood to benefit from it? And the grandma was like, she wasn't the one who did it. And then, they're investigating. They, well, not really investigating, but the secretary is looking into it. And, they apparently the drivers were switched. So it was a brand new driver that drove them to the airport, but the route that they took was not on the way to the airport. So yeah, so they talked to the driver that was supposed to drive them, and he was like, the new driver said that it was, and he gave his dad's name. So when he was thinking about the fact that, his dad woke up and thought about, okay, well, does that mean that my father was responsible for the death of, you know, the girl's mom? He started getting a headache again. And then that's when Nana came out, and Nana was like speaking to Rijin and telling her, you know, and Rijin was telling her like she grew up to be good, like she is, she received a lot of love, she's no longer hurting and stuff like that. So she told her like it was time to go. like to leave. But the girl was like, she doesn't know how to go anywhere. Um, and she was like, well, how can I help you? She's like, get Mr. X. And she's like, well, who's Mr. X? So apparently, Mr. X is her father. When they were young, he, she kept crying, wanting her dad to come get her out of, the misery that she was in. So it's almost like he created another personality that was her father. And then I'm like, well, why are you coming out now? You know, didn't really say like why he came out now, but I guess it's because all the other personalities are leaving, so he probably felt like he needed to come and take um Nana back, because I guess in a way it makes sense that Nana didn't come out this whole time, and Nana started coming out when Rijin came back into the picture. So all the time that she was sleeping, then there was no need for her father to be here. But now that she is coming out more, then I guess the father needed to come too. But it's funny because the personality of the father, like, he doesn't change into the magician. Like, he's still Dohun and he could see the personality. So that's what I was like, that's why I was a little confused, and I was like, what is going on here? But anyway, now both Mr. X and Nana are gone. So the only person that's left is Segi right now. But I feel like Segi probably feels like he has some unfinished business that he needs to take care of. With the remainder of episode 20, we find out that it was actually the cousin who, well, not the cousin, Dohun's cousin's father, who was responsible for the accident. And when the accident happened, they weren't really supposed to die. He just wanted to stop them, um, or make them run late. It was just unfortunate that they happened to die, to pass away at that point. But it was Dohun's father who helped, the I'm guessing it's his cousin. It's the father's cousin. He helped him cover up everything. Um, so that's pretty much what happened. So when they were having the meeting, a meeting to pretty much discuss like who would take over, um, Dohun's cousin was like, "Oh, I'm prepared to say that you have, DID," and he was like, "Oh, well, I'm prepared to say it too. It doesn't matter, but what matters is that I have evidence that you've been doing, like, both of you have been doing shady stuff, and you are responsible for the accident that happened." So they didn't really say, but I'm guessing they're not in the company anymore. They didn't say like if he went to jail. The grandma was like, I'm going to decide how to handle this whole thing without the company being hindered, right? So they didn't really say what happened to them. And then she told Dohun that he should go get treatment, and he can come back and the company will be his. So I think it was during that time frame, but he got a call from the secretary, or no, the secretary saw him in person, and he was like, you know Rijin went to go see the father. So when she went to go see the father, that caused Segi to come out. But I feel like she did it on purpose because afterwards she was like, I'm sorry for calling you out. She told Segi, I'm sorry for calling you out because he was the only personality still left. So um, he went over there. He went over there as Segi and he started like choking the father, and the father was just like looking at him, and the father remembered when the fire happened. So I wonder if they told um you know the father that he has the ID. And you know what's weird that they didn't show was the mom going to see the father or the wife going to see the father, considering how many times they yearn for this man to wake up. When he actually woke up, they didn't show you any scenes with them together, you know? Um, so anyway, not Dohun, Segi and um Rijin went by the water and she started talking to him, and finally she treated him like a human being versus a personality. So she was like, I pretty much gave everyone a gift with, I don't know what gift she gave Nana. I mean, I guess she helped Nana find Mr. X. But with Yona, she let him spend the final moments with her brother. And, um, you know, with Perry Park, she gave him beer and chicken, fried chicken. They didn't really show you the final moments with Yosub, but um, yeah, so her present for Segi was a kiss. So when she kissed him, you know, they showed you the part where he was talking to Dohun and saying that he's gonna go, but at any point, he can come back if there's a reason for him to. And which is true because all of them can maybe not Nana, but at any point, Yosub can come back, and at any point, Segi can come back. I don't know much for Perry Park. Maybe if he starts talking to his father, but his father seems quote nice now, like he's back to his old self. So I don't know, if Perry Park would even make his way back. And then they kind of gave you like a year later type of thing, where a year later he didn't take over the company. He gave a higher position to his secretary, and he is working with Rijin's mom and dad now, just being a part-timer, kind of like relaxing and whatnot. And her parents still don't know his true identity. They're calling him Perry. So that's a bit weird that he's been working there for a whole year and they don't know that they're dating, because the mom was like, "Oh, should we set them up?" And he was like, I don't want him dating my daughter." So I'm like, that's weird. A year later, and that's the kind of reaction you're having when in the same moment he's over there by the beach giving her and matching rings. So I thought that was um a weird way to end it. And then also in that year later, Rion wrote the book that, first of all, he told Rijin that he wasn't writing, but Dohun told him to write it and he would give him, information as long as he turned it into a bestseller. And that's exactly what he did, right? So the title of the book is the title of the show. So Kill Me, Heal Me, Heal Me. And um, it's about a Chabo who falls in love with, a Chabo with DID who falls in love with his doctor. And while he was there, there was a girl who came, and she showed interest in him, and he liked her too. But when she introduced herself, she was like, she's Anyona, so the same name as the personality, and she started acting the same way, and she was even calling him Opa the same exact way. So I'm like, is that even possible? Or was this just meant to be a funny moment, So I thought that was interesting. Um, but yeah, I will say that the ending did fall a little short for me, considering, you have 20 episodes. It was beautifully executed throughout, and just the ending just felt like it was missing something for me. But yeah, stay tuned for my rating. Well, not stay tuned, but join me again for my rating for the whole series. And this wraps up our journey on The Review Garden. Thank you for joining me today as we explored this drama. If you enjoyed this reaction and review, please remember to subscribe for more insightful videos. Don't forget to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your feedback helps our channel grow. As always, I'm truly grateful for your support and for joining me on this journey on The Review Garden. Until next time, and happy listening. Bye.